about, if you're doing in-house repairs, and stock of spares and things like that, do you provide your own space to keep all your spares in there?
We have 2 distribution centres, which are basically massive warehouses, and we keep obviously stock records, the general stuff that we tend to use. Obviously the day-to-day things, the operatives actually have a van stock of the general stuff that comes up. I must admit I'm not too au fait with the detail. My background is more housing rather than the asset management side. But if you've got specific questions, then obviously I can find out.
I was just not rested because you said that basically that it's cheaper to do it in-house than out-house. And of course, if you're doing it in-house, you've got to factor in the fact that you've got to have safe storage for all these spares.
Absolutely,
which is part of that cost.
Yeah, we have a.
And I was just interested in how how that became cost effective.
Yeah. We didn't have them originally when we first set up. It was very much learning as we went through, but yes, various facts and figures were taken into account. The contracts that we had with existing suppliers as well, obviously they had to run their term, but we then got to that point where we could set up 2 very large warehouse distribution centres. We've got one in Ipswich and one in Thetford.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The bit that sort of I'm looking at is you're saying that you're going to put, or you're trying to build relationships with councillors. So hopefully you look at each ward and you find out who the councillor is and have their emails and things. My biggest complaint that I get coming to my door most weeks is the elderly who wouldn't mind moving out of the 3-bedroom house they've lived in for 50 years and move into a small place. But when they go and look at what's being offered, if they can go and look at what's being offered, because it's all, you've got a bid on the internet and all of that, and the old people really don't like that and can't do it, and there doesn't seem to be a backup for them. But when they go, they find the place needs, not major, but it needs decorating. It needs to be clean. And they get told, oh yeah, we'll give you a paint bag. Now, if you go to their house that their family has looked after for over many years, it is clean. But you seem to expect them to do it. And that, to me, in that aspect of house changing, we've got to get the right people in the right houses. And I know in Deptford, for instance, is that there are a lot of elderly single people still in 3-bedroom houses because nobody will get the small house ready for them. And all right, they're not paying the dreaded bedroom tax because they're on their pensions. But surely, as a housing association, this is where you should be looking to help your customers. And I'm not sure that you are.
In terms of bidding on CBL systems, if an individual customer has any problem with that at all, if they just give their housing officer a ring, then we can come out and we can help them with that. In terms of the actual specification of a property, that's one of the reasons why we've changed the way that we do the void process. And I can't stand up here and say to you, yes, every property we're going to decorate and what have you. That's not necessarily the case, but it's about working with that incoming customer to understand what their specific needs are and trying to meet that as much as possible.
Okay, Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, could I just ask, it was mentioned in the Government's Finance Bill released last month, which is going through Parliament, that housing rates are going to be based on gross income. Can I ask if your housing associations are going to implement that if it comes from Parliament? Because it will, because a lot of people are coming to me and it's worrying them that it will make an impact on their income and living.
Yeah, so there's a few things really. So there is obviously the benefit cap, which is going to decrease people's income substantially, and that comes in November. The difficulty is, I mean, we've already started visiting tenants who are going to be affected by that. I think we worked out our tenant who's most affected is going to be £184 a week or so. Well, it's all right cutting someone's benefit by £184 a week, but they've got to cancel all the luxuries that they have. And we all know cancelling something you can't do in a week, you know, you have to give 12 months notice. So it's a big issue, and we visited, and we've just started visits on that, and people didn't know about it, and they really kind of weren't prepared to deal with it because it wasn't a reality yet, and that was the feeling we got from them. So there's a lot of work to do there. But there's also obviously the local housing allowance rates, where benefit will be paid at local housing allowance rates, and that's a huge thing for us, and we're trying to figure out the detail of who's affected, because we're still not quite clear. But what it does mean is that a lot of our tenants who never have had to pay a shortfall of rent will have to pay a shortfall of rent, and it's identifying who they are and how much they're going to pay and what we can do to support them. So
some of my inquiries have been from working class, working families who don't claim benefits, and or whatever. So are you going to put it across the board that because they earn say £23,000, their rent's going to go up to £1,000 a month?
Yeah, the pay to stay for the people who earn more than 30,000. Yeah, so we're not implementing that.
No, so that's going to be anything below 30,000. I think not safely say that people haven't got to worry.
Well, I don't think we can say anyone hasn't got to worry, because day by day
You're
we're
not
finding
30,000. I had 23,000 quoted to me through this finance thing.
Right. It was 30,000 at the last time I spoke, but it's changing all the time. So yeah, we're not implementing that in our organisation. But the 23,000 cap has gone down to 20,000, so that's what comes in instead of 7th of November. So that could be that. It's going to be really difficult times for everyone, and that's the thing. And we are dealing with some of the most vulnerable people in society, and that's not judging everyone, but that's what we're there to do. And it's going to be really, really tough. To work in housing at the moment is probably the most uncertain and worst time that there's ever been. There's always been a level of certainty working in housing, and there isn't at the moment. But it's not about us, it's about our tenants and what can we do. And we're going to be stretched. That's the reality of it. With the best tenancy support team and the best neighbourhood officers, we're not going to be able to reach everyone. And for us, that worries us.
Can I just ask one more question, please, Madam Chairman? Will you engage in the government right to buy schemes? I believe Flagship doesn't, and I'm not sure that's the one. But if you don't, is that something you're likely to think of going forward in the future? Because that will release some of your own houses and will help some of your tenants on the property ladder.
It's something that we did support the NHF in terms of saying that we would engage in it. However, at this moment in time, we're still awaiting details. So at the moment, there is nothing moving forward for us because it's not stacking up in terms of selling and providing the homes and getting them back again. So at this moment in time, it's all in debate and there is no final detail.
I believe you need to keep that, actually.
Okay. Mr. Sharp, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. How amenable are your organisations towards modifying your properties to assist the residents who have health problems with a view to improving their quality of life?
We have a very limited budget to do a certain amount. We work very closely with other agencies to understand exactly what level of changes that particular customer needs and how we can best provide that for them. But we do have to be realistic in terms of we only have a very small amount of finances ourselves to do that.
If the resident was to obtain a grant, how amenable are you as housing associations to have the work done?
Absolutely, and we would want to work with whichever agency is providing that grant to try and do that as quickly as possible for them.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Banbridge, please.
Thank you. I don't have a great number of housing problems in my ward, and I'm maybe well blessed by that, but you talk a great deal about tenants who need support. What sort of percentage of your tenants would you say do need support, and what sort of percentage don't?
I think that that is a really good question, because the danger is that we don't really know, and that's why certainly within Flagship we're making a conscious effort to visit our customers at least once every year. There's a lot of people who do just fall under the radar, and it's very much about getting out and understanding individuals whether they do need that support or not. We've recently reduced the size of the patches that our housing officers cover, to give them more opportunity to go out and really get to know their customers. So I wouldn't be able to give you a figure off the top of my head in terms of support.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I was just going to say really, it's such a wide subject, so support can be from social services, and there are also, so Stonham have the contract Norfolk-wide from Norfolk County Council for floating support for housing. So a tenant of ours could be getting support from Stonham, and they could be supporting them in their home, but necessarily wouldn't know that. Most of the time we would know that, because we may have referred them or we may be involved in liaising, but there's so many support agencies out there, obviously not enough, but there is, and so you don't always know about it. But it would be interesting to know that.
Okay. Mr Richmond, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Nobody, I don't think, has mentioned energy efficiency yet. Obviously, that's a hot potato if you're going in and out of a property, and going into the next one, of course. But I don't know if you have. Do you have a minimum rating on that? You know, do your properties all have to have a minimum score that you find acceptable? And then, if I may ask another question to leave this on a bit, Breckland used to have a vermin policy, a vermin control service. In fact, we don't do that anymore now. This year, particularly rats and mice, yes, wasps has absolutely been dreadful this year, absolutely dreadful, and they will of course kill you if they come down out the loft. Do you have an in-house policy for doing that, or do the tenants have to pay for that? Because that has been a worry to a few people this year. Garden bound and in the house and in the loft and in the chimney sometimes.
It's something from a flagship point of view that we say that's not a service that we provide, but we do have a range of service, and where people are particularly vulnerable, then we will provide that service for them. It's an in-house pest control service.
At a cost.
Not at the cost of the customer, no. But if there is a particularly vulnerable customer.
And what is the energy rating that you would accept or find acceptable?
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head what that energy rating is, but I know that certainly we will not sign a customer up until we are able to give them the energy performance certificate. All of our properties have reached the decent home standards, but in terms of more specific detail around that, again, if you wanted to pass those queries to Matthew or to Ross, and I can find that out for you.
Just the last question, if I may, Madam Jim. Terry's mentioned RFT. For point of view of clarity, you say that is that a solely owned company by yourself?
Yes, it's a sub-company of Flagship Housing Group.
Right.
Not all of our works are carried out by RFT. There are some, still some elements of work that we do subcontract out for
Okay.
example.
The reason I asked that, thank you, Andrea, elderly people with RFT, sometimes they'll be booked in to do some repairs. One particular lady in a wheelchair in my ward had this problem, and they were an awful long time coming to do her drive because she couldn't get from the house to get on a bus or anything else. And then the problem that people have fed back to me, taking Roy's point as well, one or two other members, they will sometimes then, with a person like that, they'll go away again. We're going to Swaffham now, but we'll be back. And then they don't come back. But they don't explain to the elderly person who is vulnerable that they should just say, look, we will be back. And if they're not going to say, when they're going to come back, please make it clear. Because one particular lady, she couldn't even have people coming to her door, her front door, but the stuff was coming off the roof and soaking everybody. So naturally she had a problem. And they said they were going to come back. So could you feed that back, please? Because that is very important.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's not the level of service that we would strive to achieve. I totally agree with what you're saying. I'd be really interested to understand a little bit more about that particular circumstance and that example. Again, if you can feed that back, and we'll look into that in particular for you, because yes, you're right, that's not the level of service that we're striving for.
Stephanie, did you want to come back about the pest?
Yeah, so we don't have a pest control service, and we would look to ask the person to do that themselves unless it was a communal area, and of course we'd do it. In terms of the energy performance certificate, anything below a C, so anything below a C would